Hey there, welcome to the Gyro Step, a Milwaukee Bucks podcast, probably a part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network and GSPN, and presented by our pals at PrizePicks, who I'm excited to talk about. My latest PrizePicks play later, and you can get it on the action and get $50 when you play $5 for the first time, win or lose, by using promo code GYROSTEP or clicking the links in the descriptions. It's just me, Ti Windisch today. It's a tough scheduling week for GSPN, and it's already been a tough week for the Bucks, despite it only being Tuesday morning, as Milwaukee fell 108-106 to the Phoenix Suns late Monday night, the second to last, the penultimate, if you will, game on this final West Coast road trip of the 24-25 season, and game was kind of a mess. There were a couple good spots in here for the Bucks, but ultimately, not enough for them to pull out the victory. They were without Damian Lillard again, which we will get into, or I guess I will get into in a little bit later in this particular pod. So Ryan Rollins starting again at the 1, which again we'll talk about. Also, of course, no Bobby Portis and no Jericho Sims. Probably not going to see those players until very late in the regular season for Portis with the suspension. And Sims, the hope is by playoff time. There's been no real update there, and I wouldn't really expect one until we kind of get into April here. But the close loss just came down to late game execution, and you could argue there were a lot of things it came down to. The Bucks left 9 points out there at the charity stripe, for example. Seven of them from Giannis, 1 from Lopez, 1 from Kuzma, the misses. But listen, when it's tied 106-106, if you get one stop and then score a bucket and you win, and you don't do either of those things, I think that's also a pretty big reason why you lost. The game was right there, sloppy as it was, shorthanded as the Bucks were, as poorly as they shot, 30.8% from 3 in this one. The game was right there. I mean, execute twice and you win anyway. And as has been the case really this entire season, the Bucks have not executed late, and their late game execution has been bad. And the Damian Lillard clutch shooting, which has been bad all season, pretty terrible actually. If you go from fourth quarter to actually clutch time, it's even worse. Obviously, that wasn't the issue in this particular game, but the trend of the Bucks withering in these moments has persisted. So, Suns have the ball. KD is absolutely electric in this game, and the Bucks sell out to try and stop him. Kevin Durant had 38 points on 52, 78. Oh my God, he shot 7 of 9 from 3, 90, 9 of 10 from free throw, shooting splits. So he was completely unstoppable. 38, 8, and 5, plus 3 blocks. I mean, one of the finer games you'll see from any player at any point in your basketball watching life. He was incredible in this Suns win. So the Bucks guarding him with Giannis. I think Kuz was over there too, shading to take KD away. And Bud, Mike Budenholzer, the obvious former Bucks coach, who maybe doesn't want to talk about it, that era in his life very much, runs a decoy play to Devin Booker, who is basically wide open because Gary Trent Jr., who is his cover, and Brook Lopez more or less just run into each other despite, I wouldn't call it even a real screen. So Lopez is guarding Nick Richards, and I don't know if it seemed like there was a miscommunication of some sorts, or just at least one of the players didn't know what was going on. And Trent is kind of taking this circular route that it is not close enough to Booker. And then they almost both run together. Like they like Lopez thinks he's switching on, and Trent is also staying with him. And regardless, it was bad. Lopez ends up the closest, but not nearly close enough. Booker is essentially wide open and buries the midi, and had not had a good game at this point. Was pretty bold to go to Booker, to be honest. And I didn't think it was some Machiavellian play design. The Bucks just completely botched it. Which, how many times in late game situations are we going to see the Milwaukee Bucks just not know what to do on key players? I mean, even some of their clutch wins this year. They run into each other, they switch wrong, something happens, and they end up just leaving someone wide open and giving them a chance to win the ball. I mean, the game they lost, that last Pacers loss, obviously one of the worst, where the Pacers run the NFL style offense play, run routes, and the Bucks somehow commit a foul when you're up 4 late in the game. I mean, I just not great stuff in late year 2 here, or I want to call it late year 1.5 because of the way he started last year from Doc Rivers. And then, things got worse. Okay, there was, I forget how much, 2 seconds left. I mean, there was enough time to take a real basketball shot on the other end. And you don't have Dame, but you do have Giannis Antetokounmpo. You do have, some elite shooters, although in this game, Taurean Prince was ice cold, didn't play much down the stretch, but Rollins had knocked down a 3. Trent was 4 of 8. Unfortunate that Trent missed a great look from Rollins a little earlier in the 4th that could have really helped the Bucks win this game, but you can't bury him too much. He was still shot 50-50, 100 splits, had 19 points, the 3rd most for the Bucks in this game, so it is what it is. But the play, it seems like, according to what Doc and Brook spoke on this after the game to the reporters there in Phoenix. Giannis did the Giannis thing of, the shot we got was fine, it's whatever. Giannis was supposed to go, and then AJ Green was supposed to curl around him. It seems like AJ went early, is what it looks like, according to Doc and Brook. And they basically run into each other directly behind the Suns defender who was guarding the inbounder. So they pretty much take themselves both out of the play immediately, leaving the real only option to inbound to Brook, who I believe Kevin Durant was guarding, either him or Nick Richards, but I think it was Durant. I think Richards might have been on the inbound. Doesn't matter. I mean, Brook, to his credit here, he was their second leading scorer, had 23 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and 1 turnover. Got himself a decent look, rose up, fired, and it hit back iron and didn't drop, but gave himself a chance. I mean, to Giannis's point, at least it was a look. I mean, they got the shot up. It was better than trying to inbound to the Dame and the Giannis and AJ Green collision that had just resulted in absolutely nothing. But again, you just need to execute better than this in late March of any season, much less the much ballyhooed, okay, year 1, really hard, coming in mid-season, didn't have the whole coaching staff, didn't have practices, didn't have an off season. You had all of those things, and the results in these moments feel worse. Last year, it felt like the Bucks could win a lot of the times in the clutch, and I do think some of it is just Dame shooting variance. I think overall, if you get him a good look late in the game, you'll win more, but the execution is poor. The players are not on the same page way too often. I mean, I don't even remember what game it was now in this trip where Giannis is trying to get Prince to move. Was that the Warriors game maybe, or was it before? Whichever. Why does no one know what to do? I mean, this is a veteran-heavy team. The youngest players here are Rollins, who Rollins hasn't been the issue. AJ Green, okay, he's been a little problematic, but year 3 now. This isn't a rookie. Or Kevin Porter Jr., who's been around for 5 years, and again, I wouldn't. There's some issues with him for spacing and things. When his jumper isn't falling, it can be a problem. He was 2 for 9 in this game. Did have 3 assists, 3 steals, 4 boards, so found other ways to contribute. Did have a really bad wasted possession on one of those steals where Giannis is just standing by the rim and he just drives right into whoever the defender. I think KD got blocked it. Yeah, it was KD. Just throw the ball to Giannis at any point if you see him by the rim. I think that's a good rule for all the Bucks. But regardless, it's Mr. Rivers or Mr. Streams or Crick or whatever Rohan and I decided we're calling Doc. He's got to answer for this. And the answer can't just be we were supposed to do it this way and we didn't. We'll figure it out. At a certain point, you can't just keep saying we're going to figure it out. You got to actually figure it out when you're in the NBA, coaching one of the greatest players in the league, clearly one of the best 2, 3 at worst players in the league, and I would say it's probably not 3 there for Giannis Antetokounmpo, as well as the rest of this team, all the high salaried players and everything else, which we'll get into the players more in a minute here. But it's just really disappointing to see a team that just feels directionless in some of these key moments. Like, there should just never be a scenario when the Suns, who have really two players capable of doing anything. I mean, listen, they didn't leave KD open, so I guess, golf clap for that, given some of their previous defensive late game execution. But KD has 38. Booker at that time had 17. He ends up getting 19 on a make. Ryan Dunn had 12. He had shot the ball well, made 2 of his 4 threes, but that's their third leading scorer. And then Nick Richards had 10. And the way Nick Richards plays, those are all right at the rim. So 3 players who take any sort of shots outside of at the rim were able to score in double figures in this game. And one was Ryan Dunn, who had 12 points, who I'm not even sure if he was on the court to end the game. I know Royce O'Neal was playing. Regardless, how can you not guard 2 players? That's all you need to do. 2 players. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. If Colin Gillespie gets a look, it's not great. You would hope that you can at least contest every shot, but, all right, it's Colin Gillespie. We'll live with it. You don't want to live with Devin Booker running wide open. You can't. I mean, 2 players. They couldn't do it. And that, the loss of Dame obviously hurts you in an overall basketball sense. You can't, and, you could say, oh, you don't have Dame. It's really difficult to make a last-second shot. The Bucks were able to do this in years past without Dame, and Dame is not making or breaking your late-game defensive execution, where if you execute really well there, you can give yourself a chance to win versus needing to take a desperate shot just to try and send the game into overtime. So, just really disappointing. Just feels like, the team is just not firing on all cylinders, that not everyone on the same page. I've talked about they need to figure out and play winning basketball. And listen, they won 2 straight games on this West Coast trip. It's not going to be a 1-4 trip regardless, but we're too late in the year, and the Bucks are too low in the standings, frankly, for these feel good, oh, well, at least this, at least that. If they beat Denver in Denver on the end of a 5-game road trip, they could salvage a winning record on this trip. That's going to be tough. That's going to be tough to do. That's not easy to do. I'm going to talk about some injuries, specific player stuff, and everything as well. But real quick, just the standings watch. The Bucks now 2 back in the loss column from Indiana. Pacers are 42-29. The Bucks are 40-31. I actually think, looking at it, the Bucks' schedule was easier than anticipated. And I never had really looked into the Pacers' schedule before this week down the stretch. I had heard it was easy. And the Pacers, they're hot right now. They're on a 5-game winning streak, which is not a good trend for the Bucks, both in terms of grabbing that 4 seed again and in terms of being able to beat them, because this Indiana team is playing great basketball at the moment. Tyrese Halliburton's on a double-double streak. But down the stretch for each of these teams, again, the Bucks are 2 back in the loss column, but they just need a tie. So if they can grab 2 more games on Indiana down the stretch, they will be the 4 seed. Depending on what Detroit does, I guess. Bucks, again, play Denver tomorrow, Wednesday night, 8 Central. That's a win in itself. We're done with 9 Central tips, hopefully forever, although I could see them throwing Bucks Pacers there if the series isn't very good. Hopefully not. And then home 2 days after that, which I believe is Friday, for the Knicks. Tough game, but Knicks kind of sliding right now. I don't think Jalen Brunson will be available for that game. And then Hawks at home, again, hardish game. Suns at home, get maybe a little revenge. The Mike Budenholzer tribute video, maybe a Grayson Allen video, all that good stuff. A team playing a lot better, actually, I will say, lately on the Suns with Beal out. This was half a joke, but not really a joke when I said the Bucks injury report luck on this West Coast trip has ended, because obviously they played Kings with no Sabonis, Lakers with no anybody, Warriors with no Steph. Suns with no Beal has actually been better for the Suns, and that did carry through to this game as well, at least for KD, not really the rest of the team. Then you go to play the Sixers, who are actively trying to lose. They are now sitting Quentin Grimes, their wonderful story where he's had 2 40-point games this year post-trade deadline, sitting him for rest in some of these games to be as bad as possible, so you got to win that. The Heat, after that, on this little mini 3-game road trip, they had lost 10 straight games. Tyler Hero is shooting 30% from 3 post All-Star break. They're very bad. So you should go beat the Heat. And then one of their 2 back-to-backs at Pelicans. These are, I've identified yesterday, if Giannis and Dame sat both Pelicans games, if they're not otherwise hurt anyway, there would be no backs-to-backs left for them this regular season. And those are, non-conference games are the least important games on the schedule. And the Pelicans are horrible. They had recently gave up 136 and lost to the Pistons without Cade Cunningham. So I could see one or even both of those being rest games to cut down on the back-to-backs here, given the obvious injury concerns for the Bucks, both actively with Dame and just generally looking back at the last few years. After that, you play Minnesota at home. That's hard. Then the Pelicans at home. That's not hard. And then a road and home mini series against Detroit, which, hey, if the Bucks continue to slide here without their bigs, those could be really big games to avoid dropping to 3 and seeing the Knicks in the first round. But anyway, some hard games, but really once you get past the Denver game and kind of the Knicks game, it's pretty light. I mean, it's like a lot of solid teams, but then some pretty bad teams. So not as difficult as that felt earlier. The Pacers, on the other hand, I won't go through all the intricacies here, but Lakers, which is tough. They've gotten their team back recently. I don't know how many of them will play on Wednesday. At Wiz is easy. At OKC, even with OKC resting players, is tough. Home Kings is not easy. Home Hornets, home Jazz, those are easy. At Denver, always difficult. Always difficult to win in Denver. Home Wiz, easy. Home Cavs, not easy. The Cavs don't have much to play for, but again, teams as good as the Cavs and OKC, even if they rest someone, you can still very well lose to a team like that. And the Cavs have this mini slide recently. This game's a couple weeks away, so probably won't matter, but Cavs probably looking to prove themselves a little bit right now. Home Magic, the Magic could be really scrapping for a play-in spot at that point. And then in Cleveland the last day of the year, which that one, very last game, maybe the Cavs play nobody. Maybe it means a lot more to Indiana. We shall see, but some tougher teams here. I think those are roughly equal. I mean, maybe the Pacers have more true letdown, easy games, but I don't think one is much more difficult than the other. So it all comes down to how well the Bucks play at this point, and it's not looking great. It's not looking great. We will get into why, but first, let's get into our friends at PrizePicks. Check it out. We got the beautiful graphic on the screen where, you should already know this if you're a diehard listener to the show. If you're not, check out PrizePicks, which you can play in Wisconsin as well as more than 30 other states throughout the country. And sign up today. Use code Gyro Step. You get $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. You can win or you can lose. And one thing I remembered after I forgot something last night is even if you forget to lock in your picks before the game, like I did before Bucks Suns, I had a little errands, a little running around to do, you're still able to take part in the PrizePicks action on that game. So I jumped in as the first quarter was ending and got the first quarter, mid-game projection slate going for this particular game. And I just jumped in based on what I'd seen so far. This could actually be a great way to play because you get a better idea of the vibe of the game. So I saw KD was red hot. I think he had 11 at that point in the game, and PrizePicks projection was 28.5. Definitely went more than KD ended with 38, so that was easy. And then a misread for me on exactly how this game was going to go. I thought the Bucks were actually going to be able to take care of business here because early, Bud sent so much attention toward Giannis on the floor that shooters were just open. And I saw Taurean Prince miss 2 really good looks. So I went with AJ Green more than 5.5 points, figuring he could bomb 2 threes. Had some good looks. So I don't feel that bad about this play, but he only made 1-2 the game. He missed 4 of his threes. And then I went Taurean Prince, demon time, more than 2.5 threes, and he only had 1. So it was a loss for me. I thought the Bucks shooters would take more advantage of those open catch and shoot threes. I knew KD was red hot. That one was a success, but the play didn't work. But it was still fun to track. AJ Green makes that 2 late in the game, and I'm going, can he make 2 more of those? That'll be more than 5.5 points as well. He couldn't, alas, but still fun to play and follow, as it always is with PrizePicks. So you can join in on the fun. Link in the description today, or whatever app store you use. Go download PrizePicks and sign up. Again, throw in $5 into PrizePicks to play your first $5 lineup. And whether you win or lose, you use our code Eurostep on sign up and you get $50 to play more lineups. So if you're playing $5 lineups, that's another 10 and more if you win that first lineup. I mean, nothing says you have to lose. I lost, but you could do better than me. So go sign up. Go send me your first play. I can't wait to see. I love when people send their PrizePicks slates. PrizePicks, run your game. Really appreciate everyone who has already downloaded and used the code. It is very helpful to the show. So thank you. Please continue checking out our friends at PrizePicks. Okay, the Damian Lillard injury. This is probably the biggest story going with the Bucks right now. Recording day after a game. Wanted to talk about the game first, but this is pretty major. And going into Monday, like during the day Monday, before we had heard more from Doc on this, I kind of felt like this is probably a very underreported story. I think that it coincided with March Madness. There's a lot of the reason why. But Dame now missing his third straight game with what was first a groin soreness and then was calf soreness and then was a calf strain, according to the Bucks as of yesterday, which is a problematic upgrade to say the least. And then Eric Dame of The Athletic says the injury, or talks to Doc, he's not just saying this. This is per Doc during the day in the lead up to the Suns game. Is the injury still day to day? Yeah. So that's what the Bucks have been saying. This is day to day, not currently, despite the upgrade to strain, seen as a longer term injury. Dame got imaging done, quote, a couple times. Doc was asked about if there was imaging done. He said a couple of times. And then the team asked if there was concern about there being a tear. Doc said, I don't know yet. We'll know more. I don't think that means there is a tear of some sort. I think Doc tries to be as, what's the right word? As, blank of a slate as possible when it comes to injuries. I'm surprised he didn't bust out his typical, I'm not actually a doctor bit that seems to be one of his favorite bits whenever the reporters ask him about Bucks injuries and what's going on with players and if they can play or not or whatever else. But just very problematic, obviously. I mean, if this were any sort of a serious calf injury, we are close to the playoffs. We are weeks away from the first round starting. That would be horrible, of course, if the Bucks had another calf injury, cost them a chance to see the Dame and Giannis combination play a playoff series again. Those two have played 0 playoff minutes together. You hope that that's going to change this season and they can just be so locked in and so good, and you have shooters and whatever else around them, and maybe they can still go shock the world and win a couple playoff series, which would be a world shocker at this point, unfortunately, the way the Bucks are playing. But if Dame's not healthy, I mean, obviously Giannis is still so great, and we saw him nearly beat Boston in 2022 without Chris playing at all. You had a Drew Holiday at that point, which you don't have right now, of course, and I don't think the goal is nearly winning. Maybe that's where the bar is for us watching the Bucks, but that's not the team's goal. That's not Giannis's goal. I certainly don't think Giannis's goal is to nearly beat a good team. I think it's to win 4 times, a 4 playoff series, not just 4 games. So that's not going to happen if Dame is out for a lot of the playoffs or anything like that. So right to be cautious with him, obviously, with the calf nagging him. And it is an injury where in years past with Portland, I believe, he's missed 5 games here, 5 games there with kind of a nagging calf injury. Hopefully that's all this is, and he's able to kind of get it under control and return soon. I wonder if the Bucks will punt this Nuggets game. I wouldn't expect to see Dame in that game at least, which, again, is getting you to a really tough spot standings-wise. And also, for Dame, if he misses too many more, gets him in a tough spot for award consideration, which, again, is obviously, it's not the goal. The goal is to, win a lot. But would suck because he probably has a chance at an All-NBA's team right now. Probably a pretty good chance at one. Which would be a cool accomplishment for him and for the Bucks to have 2 of those players, but we'll see. I think he's at 59 games played, if I recall correctly, with the cup game counting. So would need 6 more games the rest of the way. And again, even if you take out the back-to-backs, it would still allow 4 games for him. Let me pull this up quickly. Games played. Yeah, Dame's at 58 regular season. The cup game is 59. You need 65. So he needs 6 more games down the stretch. Giannis only needs 5 if, again, this cup game counts for games played. So Giannis looking good to qualify and make another All-NBA first team here, as he's certainly been good enough for that despite the Bucks' recent slide. And then on the other front, again, we talked to Jericho Sims, Bobby Portis still out for until the very tail end of the season. That means the reliance on Brook Lopez has scaled up to more than ever. Led the Bucks in minutes against the Suns, 41.5 minutes for Brook Lopez. It was very important to them, was very good in that game. I mean, again, 23-10, 3 assists, 2 steals. The Bucks won his minutes by 5, which means the 6.5 non-Lopez minutes were a -7, and that's why the Bucks lost those minutes. But that's just too much for a 35-year-old 7-footer who everyone agrees it'd be great if a 36-year-old 7-footer who's going to turn 37 in a week, next week, I believe today, next week, April Fool's Day. Who everyone agrees it'd be great if he were more situational, if he could be a matchup-based player, kind of conserve him more. That is not what the Bucks are doing. And I kind of get it. I don't think that playing Tyler Smith or Pete Nance or Chris Livingston at the 5 is really an option. You can try it. Maybe you strike gold again, like you did on some of the other young players who have come through here. But frankly, none of those players are actual 5s at this point. I think that's the big difference is none of these guys are going to come in and immediately be able to drop. Maybe you can be switchable and kind of have success that way, but the Bucks at times struggle with rebounding. Livingston's a good rebounder, but he's not going to go down there and clear out room for others the way Brook does. You're really without true size options. And the smaller Kuzma Giannis lineups really just ineffective against Phoenix. They didn't work that well after a really strong rebounding game against Sacramento. Kuzma only has 2 rebounds in 34 minutes. And, the bigger issue with Kuz overall has been offense. And that's actually, I think, Kuzma defended better than Lopez in this game, no question. But the Bucks needed points. Again, I've talked about they're really good when they score 120 points. They had 106 in this game. And sure, no Dame, but not exactly a defensive stalwart Phoenix team. And they are playing more defensive first players, but there should be more opportunities to score, especially, shooters are wide open throughout this game, and the Bucks are either breaking the shots or not getting it to them. But one of the issues is, again, Kuzma and Lopez. We've talked about the spacing in the starting lineup. We're combined 4 of 13 from 3, which is 30%. You're not going to win many games when your starting 5 just can't shoot. In this game, Taurean Prince happened to be 1 for 5. That's unfortunate. He's been one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. An aberration game is what it is, but the Bucks shooting, Gary Trent was 4 of 8. Giannis was 1 of 2. They were pretty clearly the Bucks' 2 best 3-point shooters. I guess Rollins was also 1 for 2. But nobody else on the team could knock down threes. Some of that is just shooting luck, but some of that is Lopez and Kuzma are players that the other team is going to say, go ahead, shoot the threes. We'll live with that over Giannis dunking or some of these other players, Prince, Trent, formerly Green, who was 0 of 4 from 3. KPJ was 1 of 5 from 3, 2 of 9 overall. It really needed some more offense from him or anyone that just didn't really arrive for the Bucks in this game. But Kuzma just continues to, outside of a rare game here or there, offensively, a lot of jumpers, a lot of tough runners. In addition to the 3-point shooting, was 5 of 16 from the floor, which is 31.3%, 4 assists to 2 turnovers. They need more from him offensively, but not more in terms of more different kind of shots. And this is the issue with the team composition at this point. They need him to take most of the shots that Giannis takes. They need those two to have a similar shot. Giannis has been a much better mid-range shooter this year, I think. But they need them to have a similar, or they need Kuzma to play like last year and before Giannis. Get to the rim, open up shots for others, or just shoot from there, cut there behind other actions. The problem is it's hard to build a true shot diet of a featured starter on those looks, especially, again, when you're on a team where Brook is spending more time offensively down low. Obviously, Giannis is poster lower a lot of his possessions. It's been a hard fit. And it's not going to get any easier when, the shots are not falling for Kuzma. And it's great when the shots fall. The Bucks look really good when Kuzma's able to knock down a lot of his shots, but that's not happening nearly often enough, right? Like pretty clearly it's not going to be sustainable to have a starter who is 29.4% from three with the Bucks, but taking 4.6 threes per game, which is fifth on the team. Dame, Trent, AJ Green, Brook, Lopez take more per game. Kuzma's taking more threes per game as a Buck than Taurean Prince does. Prince is shooting 15% better. That number just cannot really sustain. He's taken more than Bobby does when he plays. He took more than, in less minutes, fewer minutes, more than Middleton, everyone else. So I feel like I say it like it's easy. I know it's not easy. They need to figure out a better offensive setup for Kuzma, because just like letting him and Brook to a certain extent just bomb away and hoping that they're going to fall, the strike rate is not high enough. You have Dame and Giannis. Games should not come down to, do Brook Lopez and Kyle Kuzma hit their threes. That's a bad place to be. I don't want to sound like I'm only blaming Kuzma for this, but that's just been an ongoing problem, and he's clearly a big-time acquisition for the Bucks. They traded Chris Middleton for him. He started basically all the time since then after he first got acclimated. The fit is not good offensively. It's good defensively, and there's one possession late in the game where Kuzma is at the 5. Kuzma and Giannis are at the 4-5. Kuz is at the dunker spot. Rollins, Trent, and Prince, I think, are all spaced, and Giannis is is driving. That's a good setup. That's a good floor setup. That can work. The problem is when you also have Brook out there, you're just asking one of Brook or Kuzma to be a spacer, and teams are just probably too okay with that. I still think Trent needs to play more. Again, kind of blew the assignment on Booker late in the game. Miscommunication, whether it was all him, I don't know. Hard to say. Wasn't good from him by any means. Oh, did I say Kuz was third? Trent was third in scoring. I don't know if I said that wrong earlier. But continues to shoot the cover off the ball. Again, shot really well from this game. Has some bad defensive possessions. Also had 2 steals. Continues to force turnovers, which kind of helps. Which helps in a big way get the Bucks offense rolling. He is playing a little bit more. He was 4th in minutes among the Bucks, but I just don't see why he doesn't start. I don't care about bench lineups anymore. None of the lineups are good enough to keep a good player there's not 5 guys better than him. There's certainly not 2 guards better than him on the Bucks. He should just be starting. If you want to try Giannis at the 5, I wouldn't. You start him for Kuzma. You start him for Prince and stay big. I don't know if that really helps you that much, but Trent should be starting, and he's helping your spacing more than any other player right now. He gets up more threes per game. He gets up more tougher shots and makes them. He is just too good to be wallowing on the bench for the first 6 minutes of games, usually when the Bucks are letting other teams get off to a lead and their offense is not playing well. Good game for Ryan Rollins. Had struggled a lot to shoot the ball in his first 2 games. Looked like at one point in this game, on a drive and a foul, he had aggravated that shoulder, but if he did, it didn't. He played through it marvelously in about 26 minutes, which is more than KPJ, more than AJ Green, nearly as much as Taurean Prince, which I thought was justified based on how those 4 players played. Rollins 2 of 3 from the field, made his only 2, and was 1 of 2 from 3. The 2 was a beautiful step-through move, by the way. Made all 3 of his free throws, which again was good for the Bucks in this game. 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, no turnovers. Did have 4 fouls. You're going to have to watch that. But really nice game for Rollins. Gets deflections and steals every time he plays big minutes. Probably a guy they just need to play even when they're fully healthy. I don't think as a starter. I know that idea's been thrown around there. Should Rollins start? The 3 ball's been a little too inconsistent for me to go there. But I think someone who should be in the rotation and should be pushing AJ Green for minutes the way he is playing. AJ Green, 1 of 5 total, made an open layup, missed all 4 of his threes, all pretty good looks. Had 2 assists, had 1 steal, another bad turnover. One of the sneaky things about AJ Green that I don't want him to start anymore for this reason, when they ask him to run even like a side action, not a good success percentage. Had a bad pick and roll, kind of just easily picked off pass when he's trying to run an action. And it's not like I want the fifth starter or, the off-ball guard starter running a ton of stuff primarily, but, for plays, and you want to be able to run things outside of just here's Giannis and Dame doing stuff. And I don't know if the trust is there. Defensively, this was one of AJ's better games. He had some really good possessions on KD late and forced a couple of misses, but the Bucks needed offense from someone else outside of Trent and Giannis and Brook, and AJ was not able to provide. Again, I don't know how much of this is mental. I don't know what's going on with him, but he played the fewest minutes of any Buck in this game, and it's hard to argue with that. And Doc only went with 8 guys, so pretty limited rotation. AJ seems to be slipping and losing some ground right now, and I think hopefully Dame is back soon. He could end up being an odd man out at this point. The Pat Connaughton experiment maybe is over. He did not get in this game. Ajax did not get in this game, which again, tough for Ajax, but a team that needs more spacing and more offense, it's just hard to get him in there. You play him over Brook Lopez sometimes, but I don't think you can play Ajax, Kuzma, and Giannis for reasons we discussed. So it's just really hard for him lineup construction-wise. At this point, if you're Ajax, you got to be hoping there is some big movement kind of around the edges, around the periphery of this roster or this rotation, and maybe there's a more logical fit for him in the rotation next year. But it seems pretty tough this season. But the last game against Denver, we will see how many Bucks play. You know what? Let me check. They would never update the injury report this early. They don't have to until later in the day, but I'll check. Maybe I'll break some news here on this solo pod. But big game against Denver. I don't expect it to go well. I don't expect everyone to play for the Bucks. You certainly don't want to have Giannis get injured too, and this could be a logical rest day, and then with those back-to-backs later to get Giannis for almost all the games, but not overexert him. Yeah, no injury report yet for the Bucks. So we'll see how many players actually suit up for them in this game. But it's every game feels big right now because this is a team without a rhythm, without many players hitting a stride at the moment. And it just feels like, to the earlier point, a team not always on the same page, which, yes, you have had shakeups and everything, but it's not Ryan Rollins, the new guy dropped into the rotation, or Kevin Porter Jr., the new addition, or usually even Kuzma, the other new addition, who are getting these things wrong. Gary Trent and Brook Lopez and AJ Green and Giannis been here all year. It's late March, and for as much as Rohan and I and others on the show have kind of said, I think Doc's doing okay. I think he's got him in a good spot throughout this year, and since he was hired, it doesn't feel like a good spot right now. It feels like, there's energy issues. The second half, the Bucks came out flat and really let Phoenix take over the game in that third quarter. It's a long road trip. I get it, but it's a long playoff run if you want to win a title. I feel like, these games are hard. You can't win them all. It's like, yeah, of course it's hard. If it was easy, there'd be 30 champions a year. It's hard for a reason. Winning is hard. Winning a championship is incredibly hard. Bucks fans who remember 2021, nothing was easy about that. But if you want to hit the goal, you got to do it. That's the whole point. And the Bucks are not doing it right now. They are making everything look hard, and they're making easy stuff look hard sometimes as well. And it is it's going to be uphill sledding from here just to get back to 4, much less to make a real playoff run. You hope to see Dame back soon. That's going to be an important step 1. I do think it's easy to forget now. Remember, Dame and Giannis and Doc had this meeting about their offensive execution after, I think, that Warriors game, and we haven't seen all those 3 guys in it. Doc doesn't play, but we haven't seen Dame and Giannis play together since to see, what was talked about, what's going to be implemented. I don't know. We haven't really seen much. We haven't seen any lineup changes outside of just Rollins playing for Dame. The starters have largely remained the same. Is there going to be another meeting? I don't know, but we have not seen much change. It would be hard to see or to tell for sure without Dame playing anyway, but Bucks need to build some reps, get some wins, and figure out how to score the ball more consistently, which a lot of that's going to hinge on how they use Kuzma and Lopez and just the rotation in general, as well as, Prince snapping out of this funk. AJ Green, he's probably just has a couple games now to snap out of his before the opportunity leaves for a while this season, unless there's another punt game, which there will be, until there's another punt game this year. But yeah, it is it's getting to be do or die time for the Milwaukee Bucks. that is all I've got. I hope folks enjoyed this solo pod, something different. Not planning on doing these all the time, but let me know because I always love feedback when we try something different like this. Please, if you're not already, make sure you're subscribed wherever you're watching or listening, any audio platform or on YouTube. What else? Check out PrizePicks. Use code Eurostep. Again, it really helps us out here when folks use the code and play PrizePicks with us. So send over your projections and let us know if you're playing PrizePicks alongside me and Rohan. You can follow me on Twitter and on Blue Sky at Ti Windisch, and then on Blue Sky there's some other stuff. .gspn.social. You put in Ti Windisch, I mean, it's going to come up. There's no others of me. You can follow the show on Twitter. You can subscribe to our Substack at gspn.info to get some bonus content. Sign up to GSPN Premium to get an exclusive podcast every week, as well as commercial-free versions of the pods. I think that's all I got. Talked a lot. Pod random, and we will. Oh, what does he say after that? Pod random. We will talk to you next time.